B2B sales do not have to be complex if you don't want them to. You don't need some fancy 10-step strategy that takes months to implement in order to reach out to 1,000 leads a day. So in this video, I wanted to show you the strategy that I use to reach out to pretty much as many people as you'd like in a day, as quickly as possible, and as efficiently as possible. The very first thing you're going to need in order to do any sort of B2B outreach is, of course, to have a lead source. The place in which you're going to find your leads completely depends on the industry in which you operate. The first two are Apollo.io and Ocean.io. These are two big databases of B2B leads that you can use to find any of the companies you're looking for within your ICP. If you operate in e-commerce, I would recommend using Store Leads. It's by far the best one. If you're looking for local leads, I would use Clay's Google Maps source. You just go to clay.com, click create new table, and then find local businesses using Google Maps, and you can find any local businesses within a large radius in Google Maps, or you can simply scrape databases on other websites using the Clay Chrome extension. If you're trying to look for people, I would also recommend using Apollo, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, or Clay's Find People integration, which essentially scrapes LinkedIn to find people in a company. So you just go to find people, put in the criteria you want, and it will pop out the people who match that criteria. Once you find your data source, it is then time to move on to the actual strategy that you are going to use to reach out to the leads you'd like to reach out to. There are pretty much three big ones, which are cold email, cold calling, and using LinkedIn for outbound. For cold email, it's very important to first set up sender domains that don't match your main domain. So if you work for Google, do not use @google.com as your domain. Use @googlefriends.com or something that is related to your company, but not exactly your company domain, because you might compromise the quality of your domain if you get sent to spam sending cold email with your main one. I would recommend using Instantly to set up these inboxes because there's a very easy way to do it. If you go to instantly.ai, if you go to email accounts, add new, you can just create as many Gmail accounts as you want. Once you've done that, it's time to craft your cold email. Your cold email is going to vary pretty significantly depending on who you're reaching out to, but here's a couple big tips. The first one is write a personalized first line based on something about the company that ties into your value prop. For example, if you run an agency that improves site speed, I would recommend you say something along the lines of, hey, I saw your site speed is bad. The next thing I would do is keep it short and concise and make sure a fifth grader could read the email if they wanted to. People do not like long, convoluted emails that have a bunch of words. People just aren't reading all that. The next thing I would do is focus on your offer. What is the best possible thing you can give to a prospect in exchange for a meeting? What is something that you can give them that is relevant to your value prop for free that will convince them that you are good at what you do and that they should hire you or buy your product or service? And once you've done that at a manual scale and shown some level of effectiveness, I would highly recommend using a tool like Clay to scale up these personalizations. So for example, here is a table where I'm doing research automatically with Clay. I'm enriching the company using one of their hundreds of integrations within the tool. Once I found their website, I fed it into this AI web scraper called Claygen. I said, find me the link for their 10K filing. Then once it found the link for me, I said, find me their net sales in 2023 by scraping the 10K filing. And you can see it's done that exact same thing for me here. You can do research at scale with Clay instead of having to do it for each company one after another. On top of that, you can also personalize outreach using the data that you found. So for example, in this case, I found the company's description using the enriched company integration, and then I personalized outbound by feeding that company description in there, and then it popped out what the company does in a custom snippet, which you can then send to a tool like Instantly and use in a personalized outreach sequence. The second one I mentioned is cold calling. All you would really want to do is write a simple cold calling script to ensure you have a solid flow throughout the call, and you can use Clay to personalize this as well, using the same methods you would have done with your emails. Creating personalizations within the cold calling script allows you to be a little bit more variable when you're doing outreach instead of having to say the same thing over and over again. I would recommend cold calling in situations where leads respond with some degree of interest because it allows you to call warm leads and reach out to them that way. I would also recommend cold calling any of the highest priority contacts that you have in any given ICP because it allows you to get a little bit more personal with them, and I'm sure you can do a lot more research manually with them. I would also recommend using an AI dialer such as Orem that allows you to reach out to several people at once, and it detects voicemails or real people's voices when they pick up, so you can dial at a higher scale. Finally, the last channel I would recommend using is LinkedIn outreach. So it's going to be pretty similar to your general email outreach in terms of copy, but the difference is you're doing it on a social platform that has lower message limits. So when you're reaching out to people on LinkedIn, you can only send out so many messages, but you can still reuse tools like HeyReach and Live Growth Machine that act similarly to Instantly, but for LinkedIn. First, you're going to set up the flow to send a LinkedIn connection request. Then you are going to have it send a series of messages similar to that of email. And while it has the same structure as email, the positive response rates for LinkedIn outbound are significantly higher. If you're interested in the software I use to scrape leads and personalize my outbound, feel free to check it out in the link in the description. And ideally, I will see you in the next one. Happy prospecting.